Okay, hello everyone. Today we'll talk about exception handling in Java. So for today, as first thing that we're gonna do is we'll define what is the exception handling, why do you need that. Then we'll talk about the try and catch and throw. It's one of the way to handle the exceptions. Then we'll consider what kind of exception can we have. Then we'll talk about three steps of the exception handling. First is declaring, then throwing, and the last one is catching. And the last thing that we'll talk about today, but not least, is finally clause. So, what is the exception handling? Exception handling is necessary to handle some edge cases, and it allows us to not to terminate our program. It allows us to resolve or handle the exceptions, and if we would be able to handle that exceptions, our program can continue executing, and like if no problem had been encountered. And in the end, if we use exception handling, we would be able to get robust and fault tolerant program, and of course like graceful termination without any kind of errors. So why do you need exception handling? Let's consider the case when we enter two numbers, like two integers, number 1 and number 2. And then we want to print like the message where we divide number 1 by number 2. This code works fine, but this code doesn't consider the case when, for example, number 2 can be 0. If number 2 is 0, then we can get the error because we cannot divide by 0. And in order to solve this kind of problem, we can just add if statement to test the second number. Like we can just check if number 2 is equal to 0, then we like stop the like wrong input and so on. But of course, we can also handle this case with the exception handling. If to be more precise, it's a try and catch and throw. So initially, let's say integer c is divided by 5 divided by 0, and then we print finished. But of course, here we have the error. We cannot divide by 0, and that's why we wouldn't be able to print the message finished. And here we got this kind of error in our console. But we can introduce try and catch. So here we use try, and inside of try we would write some statement. And if this statement arises some error or some exception, we can print this message, and in the end we just print the same message finished. And as you can see, even though this statement is incorrect, our program would be able to continue to run our code. And here in the console, as you can see, we just print this message, that exception by 0, and in that we get this message finished. But here, because we didn't use exception handling, we couldn't get this message, and our program terminated before printing this message. And as you can see, in order to handle the exception, we use try and catch. Finally, here, as you can see, finally is not included. Finally allows to execute some code or statement even we have some kind of errors, and that error is not handled in this catch. We will talk about the finally in the end of this lecture. So next is the throw. Throw allows to handle some kind of methods with error. So for example, throw keyword allows to manually throw the exception. And if when we want to handle the method with the exception, we declare some kind of method. Of course, here it can be any kind of public modifier. Here it's void. Of course, it can be any other data type. It can be integer, it can be double. Here we can have any kind of name to the method, any kind of parameters. And here we write throws exception. So throws exception handles the case when we have some error inside of our method. And here, if we take a look, let's say that we have some kind of method called add user with parameter with object user of the class user, and it throws exception. And we can have some case when this user is not declared, is not initialized, and it can be null. So here inside of the if, we check if user is null, then we throw new exception and with message user is null. If user is not null, we can apply some code on that object. With a throw here, we can declare not only one exception, but here in throws we can declare many exceptions to handle many exceptions or errors. In a Java, we can have not only one type of the exception, we can have many kind of exceptions. So it all starts with the object cosmic class, then we have throwable subclass that allows to catch these errors or exceptions, and then we have two kind of exception. Just first subclass is just simple exception, and second is subclass error. And error has like linkage error, virtual machine errors, and many more other classes. But one of the most commonly used error is linkage error and virtual machine error. These two errors is not possible to handle. Mostly we catch this kind of errors, exceptions. So there are three major exceptions. It's system errors, exceptions, and runtime exceptions. So now let's take a look on system errors. So system error is errors that are thrown by Java virtual machine, and it's represented in the error class. So here it's this class. The error class is necessary to describe the internal system errors. These internal system errors, they don't happen much, but they still possible can happen. As I said before, error class has two subclasses, linkage error and the virtual machine error. So linkage error is necessary to say that, for example, if one class has dependency on another class, and this another class has changed incompatibly after the compilation of the former class. So for example, if we want to use some class and that class is dependent on other class and that class is changed, and in that case we can get the linkage error. The second is virtual machine error. The virtual machine error happens when, for example, our Java virtual machine that works under the Java has some kind of error, or it's run out of the resources. And these two errors is not possible to handle with exception. Next, second type is just simple exception. Exception is allows us to describe the errors caused by our program or by external circumstances. So, of course, this kind of exceptions can be handled and caught by our program. Two examples, it's a class not found exception and IO exception. So class not found exception is when, for example, we want to use the class that doesn't exist anymore. In that case, we need to use class not found exception. Second, IO exception is when, for example, we want to read some files, some txt files, and let's say that file is not readable or that file doesn't exist. In that case, we can use IO exception. And third, it's one of the most commonly used exception is called runtime exception. Runtime exception allows to describe the programming errors, some kind of bad casting, and some like accessing out of bounds array and some numeric errors. Here are examples of the runtime exception. First one is arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception is provided before here. So when we enter some number and we want to divide, for example, our number by 0, then we can use arithmetic exception. So here it's dividing integer by 0. Null pointer exception, if here it's when we want to use some object that is null, and we can use null pointer exception. Index out of bounds exception is necessary to is used when we want to access the element that doesn't exist in array. And for example, if our array is created for 5 elements, but we want to get access to the elements under the index 10. Of course, in that case, we would get index out of bounds exception. Illegal argument exception is exception that is used when we get some argument in a method that is not inappropriate or is illegal. So in Java, we can get some kind of handling chain. So for example, we have two methods, and here the method 1 and method 2. And inside of the method 1, we have try and catch. And inside of the try, we want to invoke method 2. We want to call the method 2. And method 2 is throws some exception. And when we have error inside of the method 2, we just throw the new exception. And this exception would be handled inside or would be catched in method 1. Exception handling in a Java consists of the 3 main operations or 3 main steps. First, we need to declare the exception. Then we need to throw the exception. And finally, we need to catch that exception. So let's start with the declaring exception. Declaring exception is necessary to declare the exception. The declaring happens when we use the method. So for example, when we write the signature of the method, then we write throws and IO exception. So for example, we want to handle the case when, for example, when we want to read some information from the outside file or txt file, and in that case we can get the IO exception. This is how we declare the exception. We use keyword throws, and then we define what kind of exception we want to handle. Second is throwing. Is the case when we actually already found our exception, and we want to return back that exception to our method 1. So here, this is a throwing exception. So the throwing is used with keyword throw. So guys, don't be confused with the throws and throw. Throws is necessary to declare the exception, and throw is to actually throw the message. So here we have the declaration of the exception, and here we throwing the exception. Here we use the keyword throws, and here we use keyword throw. In a Java, when we use some constructor of the exception, usually that exception has at least two constructors. First one is no argument constructor, and second is constructor with string argument that describes that exception. So, for example, here we threw new exception, and this exception we didn't write anything, so it's used no argument constructor. But if we would write some string message, then we would call the constructor with parameter, and that parameter is string. And if we want to print that message, we would use get message. And the last one in exception handling is catching. Actually, when we catch the exception, and it's used in a try catch block. So here we have throw, and we have catch of the exception 1, exception 2, and exception n, and so on. So we can catch or handle not only one exception, but different kind of exceptions. And the last one for today is finally close. So we can use keyword finally to execute some statement that can be used at any case. So, for example, we have like statement 1, statement 2, and statement 3. And let's say that we can handle one of the exceptions. For example, let's say that we want to handle arithmetic exception. So we enter two numbers, like integer 1, integer 2, and we want to divide by 0. In that case, of course, the exception of arithmetic exception would handle. But let's assume that we want to enter not integer but double. But we didn't consider that case in our catch. When we enter double, not integer, it should be catched. It should be handled with different type of the exception. And our code would anyways show the error. But if we use finally, this finally would execute at any case. Even we would consider the exception that is not handled by catch. So finally, it allows us to execute any statement without looking at this part of the code. So for the reading, please read Java How to Program, 11th edition, chapter 11. That's it. Thank you very much. See you.